The girl wakes up from a nap and unexpectedly transmigrates into an interstellar beast world. But who would have thought that in reality she was a total airhead? Yet in the interstellar realm, all the men worship her as a deity. Right from the start, they collectively kneel and offer their chastity. And what's more, these beastmen are all uniformly incredibly handsome hunks. There's the aloof and ascetic crane commander, the tall and mighty golden lion general, and the merman emperor who reeks of tea-scented aura all over. Simply because not a single female can be found on this continent. The males don't even know what use their iron rods have. At this moment, the girl stands dazed in the forest. In front of her are 5 giant-sized weasels with gigantism. These creatures bare their fangs, with fierce glints in their eyes. The girl is so scared her diaper is already soaked. Although the current situation looks dangerous, in reality, it's not safe at all. She backs away step by step, while waving the branch in her hand, and even mimics an angry lion's roar with her mouth. But doing this only provokes the pack of beasts. The way they look at the girl is like staring at a delicious combo meal, ready to pounce and tear into her at any moment. The girl roars, while glancing around, although it's not exactly a situation with no escape. At the very least, there's still a dead end waiting. Finally, after some probing, the mutant weasels realize the girl is just a complete fool. They all open their bloody maws wide and charge toward her. When you turned her head to confirm the escape route, only to tragically discover a wasp nest 2 stories high blocking the path. Well, this is just great. Wolves ahead and tigers behind. Rather than being stung into a sieve by wasps, might as well fight it out with these few weasels. At this critical moment, a clear, sharp cry suddenly swept across the sky. A group of eagles with sleek builds, one pair forming an S shape, one pair forming a B shape, neatly streaked across the heavens. Detecting movement in the woods, the Golden Eagle squad collectively turned around and dove down towards the depths of the jungle. The lead eagle exclaimed in surprise, "Look, what is that?" It's 5 mutated weasels, and an unknown energy fluctuation. An eagle behind said, "No, that looks like a female with remarkably formidable combat power. Listen, she can even emit a wolf dog-like howl. Quick, go to her aid and report to Commander immediately." The flight speed of the Golden Eagle squad rivals the most advanced aircraft. In the blink of an eye, they rushed before Wenyu joined this 1 versus 5 chaotic brawl. 10 fierce, dark brown eagles charged straight over, scaring Wenyu out of her wits. Her hand tightened. The tree branch directly impaled 1 mutated weasel clean through. The Golden Eagle squad collectively gasped in surprise. Holy smokes! 1 robust golden eagle suddenly extended its sharp claws, shouts at a weasel. So brutal. This brain-shrinking roar instantly ignited the fighting spirit of all the golden eagles, then swiftly finished off the remaining few. In front of Wenyu, they uniformly drew human forms. A row of 10 people, all in upright military uniforms, tall, with long legs, with 3-dimensional, deep Western faces, comparable to sculptures meticulously crafted by masters. The squad leader, Jin Neer, stepped forward, kneeled on 1 knee, performed a standard royal gentleman's salute. "Beautiful female, we are very sorry to have frightened you. From now on, the Golden Eagle squad of the Royal Reconnaissance Battalion will escort and protect you." The members behind him also moved in unison, kneeling on 1 knee. Their respectful posture made Wenyu doubt she wasn't wearing clothes, but had transmigrated, become some high-ranking officer. The good news is she had just finished reading an entire interstellar Beastman novel. Knew this situation was only because she was a super rare female. The bad news is, this world and the novel she read are completely different. She couldn't understand a word this birdman in front of her was saying. English. When you felt liquid sliding down her cheek, was about to raise her hand to wipe it. Jin Neer trembled and pulled a silk handkerchief from his breast pocket. and offered it with both hands, saying, "If you could use this handkerchief, I would feel immensely honored." When you still couldn't understand, but she could tell it was meant for her to use. Then she stammered out a thank you. She took the silk scarf, wiped the blood splattered on her face. The soft silk scarf carried a faint floral scent. It was a very refreshing and comfortable smell. Of course, there wouldn't be a trash can in the primeval jungle. When you also wouldn't casually discard someone else's silk scarf. She thought to tuck it into her pocket, to wash it clean and return it to him when she had the chance. However, the blonde, handsome man maintained his kneeling, open-handed motion. His beautiful, light, golden eyes eagerly looked at her. When you tried to adopt the mindset of a female-dominated, male-subservient society, tentatively placing the blood and sweat-soaked silk scarf into his palm, the man indeed showed a pleased expression, carefully and solemnly folding the silk scarf and putting it away. This made Wenyu, single for 20 years since birth, feel slightly awkward. She gave a light cough, using both hands and mouth to express, "Hello. My name is Wenyu. Could you please help me get out of the jungle?" But Jin Neer similarly couldn't understand the girl's language. His golden pupils flickered with the trace of clear foolishness. However, the immediate priority was to take this girl, suspected to be a young female, for a comprehensive physical examination, to ensure she wasn't injured in the jungle. His expression became extremely serious. "Beautiful female. You are injured. For safety reasons, could you please condescend? Come with me to the Interstellar Red Village Clinic." Then he made an inviting gesture, immediately transforming into his beast form, humbly lying down before Wenyu, signaling for her to mount his broad back, watching as a handsome, golden-haired man turned into a large eagle, inviting her to sit on his back. Wenyu's sense of shame instantly exploded, shyly saying, "Then I'm getting on. It might hurt a little." However, just as she stepped on Jin Neer's wing, preparing to climb up, another cry echoed from the sky. A pure white, red-crowned crane gracefully landed. The moment it touched the ground, it transformed into human form, dressed in a crisp, snow-white military uniform, accentuating his upright posture. His skin was coldly pale, his eyes and brows resolute. A bright red mark adorned the center of his forehead. Wenyu was instantly stunned by his astonishing beauty. The red-crowned crane's appearance could be described as bewitching, and that wouldn't be an exaggeration. With a touch of ethereal grace, both celestial and demonic, and judging by his complexion, he was clearly several levels above the golden-haired team leader. At that moment, the golden-haired man and the pair of heroic youths snapped back to reality. Facing the red-crowned crane, they knelt in unison. Wenyu suddenly sprouted a desire to change mounts. After all, riding one is the same as riding another. There are no surveillance cameras here. She tentatively waved in greeting. "Hello, sir." This red-crowned crane was clearly much more intelligent. He was only bewildered for a moment, then imitating Wenyu's manner. A clear and melodious voice sounded somewhat awkward, and also followed with a "Hello, sir." Wenyu, caught between tears and laughter, pointed at him, then pointed at herself. "You are the sir. I am Wenyu. Wen. W-U. Wen. Y-O-U. You. It's very simple." Song Hye-king's heart was already a raging storm at this moment. Jin Neer reported discovering a female in the primeval jungle. At first, he didn't believe it, because from ancient times until now, their Jowoang star had never had such a thing. The only existing bits were pitifully scarce introductions about female characteristics. He only remembered that in the materials, it was drawn as a short-haired yellow-haired woman, wearing overalls, spreading her legs in a basketball-playing pose. This was left behind when alien creatures visited. At that time, they all collectively mocked it, saying females looked like this bear-like appearance, not even as good as the poop their males produce. And now, he simply couldn't believe the scene before his eyes. A gentle and beautiful female, standing alive before him. Her melodious and pleasant voice made him feel ashamed of himself. The words she spoke had cadence and rhythm. They must come from some ancient and mysterious civilization. Song Hye-king steadied his mind, attempting to understand the girl's body language. Using a few syllables from the foreign language, he pieced together her name, Wenyu. Before the words even finished, a blush appeared on her fair cheeks. The rosy hue was especially noticeable against her cool, pale skin. It looked just like the clouds at sunset on the horizon. The pronunciation of these two words, in the Zhuoang language, represents a treasure, and not just any ordinary precious item. It is a term of endearment for a sincere person. Wenyu saw the man's shy appearance, and was very puzzled. Why was he blushing? Could it be that her name was too embarrassing to say? But she still gave him a thumbs up in appreciation. Then, once again, using both hands and feet, she gestured that they could go. Song Hye-king nodded. He stepped in front of her, elegantly half squatted down. My feathers will be smoother than Jin Nier's. I hope you won't mind. When you pressed her thumping little heart. Does this mean he's going to carry her on his back? She leaned forward and pressed against the man's sturdy back. Her arms also naturally wrapped around his neck. At such a close distance, the back of her hand inadvertently brushed past the young male's prominent Adam's apple, and she clearly felt that piece of cartilage roll up and down. Afterwards, when you felt the roots of her thighs being lifted up, instantly, her old face flushed red. From childhood till now, she had never even held a boy's hand, let alone being intimately pressed together in such a position. After Song Hye-king lifted her onto his back, he drew a circle. He thoughtfully reminded, "Please hold on steady. We are about to depart." A white crane with pale ink-like markings on its white feathers soars into the sky. Its neck is slender and long. Only a spot of red on its forehead is strikingly bright and eye-catching. Jin Nier suddenly understood. Commander truly lives up to being the commander. The attention to detail in how he treats and handles people completely outshines us rough fellows. It's just so damn meticulous. The little brother behind him heard and added, "Yeah, can't be any more meticulous. Any more and it'd break." Wenyu greatly enjoys the feeling of lying on Song Hye-king's back, although she has never tried any high-altitude activities before. At this moment, she feels very secure and warm. Moreover, she had noticed this red-crowned crane earlier, when the officer transformed into human form. The brim of his military cap was pulled low. The lines of his facial features were sharp and exquisite. His pure, white, clean officer's uniform, delicate tassels hung down by his shoulders. The calves wrapped in military boots were straight and slender. Such formal attire. Yet on his fair right earlobe, he actually wore a feather-shaped ear cuff, glistening with a dazzling metallic sheen in the sunlight. It softened some of the sternness, making the man's bone structure appear even more superior. Now that he has turned into a red-crowned crane, that ear cuff is still attached to the side of his head, beautiful like an artwork meticulously carved by a master. Wenyu, having seen enough of the scenery, hugged his neck and shifted forward a bit, reached out to touch that ear cuff dangling with the silver chain. He seemed to feel her touch. The silver chain emitted a sapphire blue glow. Don't ask why she dares to throw her weight around on someone else's head. She has now fully immersed herself in the role of a noble female. Reading novels was awkwardly thrilling, but now she is genuinely thrilled. Just thinking about the setting, which will also assign her a mansion and handsome men, makes her so thrilled she almost has a heart attack. Not to mention the stunningly beautiful red-crowned crane. Even the Eagle team members are all as handsome as Atrox. Wenyu is already prepared to ravage the handsome men. At the same time, Song Hye-king, whose ear is being caressed by the female's small hand, is not so relaxed. Zhuoang Star has no females, or rather, not a single male on Zhuoang Star has any experience interacting with the opposite sex. Till this very moment, The soft, boneless touch on his ear is faintly perceptible, seemingly carrying the delicate fragrance of the little female herself. A fine, tingling numbness seeps in from the skin, pulling at his bloodline and heartbeat, making them accelerate. This has already transcended the realm of mere physical stimulation. He is the first male on Jowoang star, under the current planetary force, to be so intimate with a female. This flight will be recorded in history, becoming a tremendous honor in his life. Of course, what excites him is not the glory brought to his family, but the chance to be remembered by future generations, together with this beautiful female. The red-crowned crane clan is known for their eloquence. Their sensitivity to language is almost unparalleled. Song Hyeking tries to guide her to speak. "Are you interested in my light brain?" His light brain is actually a built-in ear bone frame. Zhuang's new technology is advanced. Highly skilled craftsmen can already fashion light brains into any shape and provide some reinforcement to the wearing area. For example, a wristwatch that enhances arm strength, a hairpin that can form a protective shield, or glasses comparable to an astronomical telescope. Song Hyeking's is a light brain that can act as a Shen Fefa Eng R, keen ear. This red-crowned crane's voice is quite pleasant, clear and cool, yet soft. But since she couldn't understand, when you just felt that his speech was like singing, comforting. Out of politeness, she started making small talk with him. "Where did you buy this ear bone frame? The style and craftsmanship are quite trendy." Song Hyeking said, "Your Excellency, when you..." "I am Zhuang Xing, commander of the 1st Military Base and the Royal Reconnaissance Battalion." Song Hyeking, "You can call me Zhao Song." When you then said, "Sir, where are we going now? How much longer until we reach the destination?" The other replied, "Zhuang Xing is located on the 5th orbit of the Blue River Galaxy, currently one of the most developed and most habitable planets in the Blue River Galaxy. I hope you feel at home." One person and one bird, talking at cross purposes the whole way. Song Hyeking knew this female couldn't understand the Zhuang language, but could only grit his teeth and keep the conversation going. Song Hyeking's light brain. It is equipped with the most advanced intelligent language system of the new series. It can rapidly collect and analyze unknown languages, and he himself is proficient in multiple star languages. Only by gathering a sufficiently diverse range can he understand this female's language as quickly as possible. In order to provide her with high-quality service subsequently, Song Hyeking did not take Wenyu to the Red Village Clinic. Instead, he directly brought her back to the military base. As the Empire's chief commander, his considerations were far more comprehensive than Jin Nier's. The appearance of a female on the all-male Zhuang star. Once the news is released, the uproar it would cause is imaginable. It is hard to guarantee that alien spies and terrorists would not seize the opportunity to cause trouble. Compared to the crowded and chaotic hospital, the military base is obviously much safer. The medical equipment is also at the cutting-edge level. It's just that those military doctors and nurses are rather rough. He must supervise and accompany her throughout the entire process to ensure the little female receives proper treatment. The two boasted and hyped themselves up the whole way. Song Hyeking also learned a few everyday phrases. Upon arriving, he first set Wenyu down. Then, using an extremely standard Huaxia language, he said one sentence, "Beautiful female, please follow me." This greatly surprised the girl. She quickly praised Song Hyeking, but she still asked, in such a short time, "How did you learn it?" Facing Wenyu's question, Song Hyeking frowned. After pondering for quite a while, he earnestly replied, "You're talking nonsense. The slow bird must fly early." With a pft sound, the girl laughed, sprawling out with limbs splayed. After calming down for a good moment, she then said in standard Mandarin, "Yes. We have an old saying, the slow bird must fly early. But you're not slow at all. You've already grasped the basics so quickly. You're practically a born academic genius." This sentence nearly fried Song Hyeking's CPU again. But looking at the girl's expression, This remark was probably meant to praise him. When you looked at the other's adoring little eyes, and those full, slightly pursed lips, her heart was about to melt. It was just like the top-ranked heartthrob in the whole school, asking with a clueless, adorable expression, should the hair tie go around 2 times or 3? She felt herself already starting to drool at the corners of her mouth, when you quickly slurped it back. At this moment, her desire to tease no, to tutor damn it, to impart new knowledge to the handsome guy was unprecedentedly high. After examination, when you only had minor scrapes, Song Hye-king was overjoyed to learn this. He immediately ordered the news to be sealed. No one outside could know the whereabouts of the female. Then he gently said to the girl, "You've just arrived. This place is unfamiliar to you. We'll need you to stay here for a while." When you thought to herself, "Anyway, I can't return to Earth for now. Moreover, I have no parents. I grew up in an orphanage since childhood. How could staying here be comfortable?" Song Hye-king was also delighted to learn about the girl's attitude. He casually remarked, "This is great. The gender ratio on our planet has finally broken a record." He then had someone make a banner on the spot. "Warm congratulations, the gender ratio on Jawong planet has reached 1 to 80 billion. When you was almost completely stunned. Even if she liked this place, she couldn't stand being the only woman on the entire planet. What if one day, they all became beastly, all vying to reproduce with her? 80 billion, oh my goodness. As if fearing something would make it happen, a man suddenly walked in from outside. He was a full 2 meters tall, with a ferocious scar on his face. When he saw Wenyu, his 2 eyes immediately revealed a primal, beastly desire. When you saw his nearly 2-meter height, his body of strong, sinewy muscles, as if the floor shook when he walked. The figure wrapped in a dark military green coat had a wild, aesthetic beauty. The originally spacious consultation room seemed cramped because of his movements. If such a man harbored ill intentions toward her, she would be absolutely defenseless. And even though he tried his best to adjust his facial muscles to appear softer, the bloodthirsty military aura about him remained. And the scar on the brow, still much fiercer than Song Hye-king. Knowing Wenyu is not a local female, he just politely bowed his head, then exchanged a few words with Song Hye-king. Hye-king finished talking with the other party, turned to look at the girl. "Your Excellency, Wenyu. This our base leader, General Nate. He wants to tidy up his own room for you to stay in temporarily. Wondering if you would condescend." Song Hye-king's own room has already been arranged for a thorough cleaning. All daily necessities have also been replaced with new ones. When you can move in at any time. But her room naturally cannot compare to the leader's spacious comfort. The leader's inner room also includes a study and a balcony, most suitable for an active female like her. Poisoned by NP Beast world literature. When you naturally misunderstood. She thought this general was inviting her to cohabitate. Isn't this different from the setting? What about the promised matching with multiple, well-dowered male beastmen? When you sized up General Nate from head to toe. Undeniable. The man's bronze skin, amber-like deep eyes, strong and powerful muscles, exuding mature male hormones everywhere. But in comparison, she prefers Song Hye-king's divine beauty, aloof and calm in public, adorably gentle in private. Song Hye-king saw her rolling her eyes without speaking, misunderstanding her dissatisfaction with the humble living conditions. Immediately opened his mouth to apologize. "Very sorry, Your Excellency, Wenyu. To your safety, you may have to stay at the base for a while." Wenyu knew nothing about Zhuo Yangzhen's situation at this time. She was just a bit puzzled. Although there are many males and few females, the protection of females doesn't need to be this excessive, right? The Empire's top tier, highest security first military base, judging by its scale, it houses at least 1 million troops. If she lived here, indeed, not even a fly could get near her. But the drawbacks were also obvious. The border areas have strict systems. The benefits that females outside can enjoy When you had none of them. The beast world she had transmigrated into, and the novel she had read couldn't be said to be largely similar. They could only be described as completely unrelated. Since she didn't have the script in hand, she wasn't sure when she would transmigrate back to Earth either. She just wanted to enjoy life during this time. Song Hye-king and General Nate accompanied Wen Yu on the way to see the room. She asked about her own body. "King, can I call you that? I saw you didn't look well earlier. Am I sick?" Taking advantage of the advanced interstellar technology, treat illness if sick, strengthen the body if not. Wen Yu's little calculations were clinking loudly. Song Hye-king originally thought he had already mastered it well. But when the little female uttered those two words, his brain momentarily crashed. Even his optical brain sensed its master's emotions. Silver blue light flowed and refracted over the pale earbone. It makes the few strands of red in the skin particularly noticeable. Song Hye-king heard his own voice stumbling. "Of course, it's my honor. Your Excellency, Wen Yu. You're very healthy. You just need more exercise." Wen Yu was embarrassed. Her physical education had been completely neglected since high school. It probably couldn't be made up for in a short while. Don't always have "Your Excellency" and "you" on the tip of your tongue. She was also quite helpless about Song Hye-king's respectfulness. In my homeland, only a small number of people in high positions of power are addressed as "Your Excellency." And "you" is an honorific for elders or esteemed people. Originally, he was the only one she could chat with. But every opening and closing of his mouth was full of honorifics. It made her feel rather awkward. But what Wen Yu didn't know was, because he had no experience interacting with females, Song Hye-king was indeed receiving her with the etiquette reserved for respecting a superior officer. But given his status in the empire, even the newly enthroned emperor was not qualified to make him lower his posture to such an extent. Song Hye-king silently noted the customs of the little female's homeland. His beautiful eyes half squinted. His thin lips curled into a pleasant arc. "Okay. I remember. Is Wen Yu okay?" Wen Yu had already explained to him before that Wen Yu is a sweet and sour, juicy fruit. According to her description, Song Hye-king quickly determined this vocabulary. The corresponding food on Zhuoang star, round and plump in shape, very much like her slightly puffed, soft white cheeks. Only the little female looked much cuter and softer. The Empire's renowned god of war, the leader of the First Legion, General Nate, experienced for the first time in his life the bitterness of being reduced to a background prop. Nate watched helplessly as the two people in front of him chatted and laughed freely. He not only couldn't get a word in, but couldn't even understand their conversation. The beast god bestowed upon him unparalleled martial prowess, but did not grant him an intellect comparable to Song Hye-king's. The short distance from the medical department to the residential area, General Nate had walked countless times due to battlefield injuries. But today, it felt exceptionally long. He wanted to personally show this visiting little female around the room, but worried his overly ferocious appearance would frighten her. Yes, it truly was ferocious. Even though the scars did not mar his handsomeness. Even though he was consistently ranked among the Empire's top 10 most handsome faces, when facing a female who had only ever existed in his fantasies, General Nate felt an uncontrollable inferiority, until the three of them took the private elevator to the top floor of the base. At the entrance to the base leader's private lounge, several orderlies were moving out neatly packed miscellaneous items, while newly purchased daily necessities were also placed at the entrance. Looking somewhat messy, General Nate's gloomy face looked rather unnatural. He uttered an apology in a foreign language. Song Hye-king naturally stepped in to help him out. The general was still tidying up the grapefruit here. "You can go rest in my room next door first." At this moment, a young golden-haired beast darted out from the pile of debris. Its fur was pure in color. Its posture was light and agile. In just a few leaps, it crossed over the clutter and landed in front of Wen Yu. The little one stood upright, supporting itself with its two furry front paws on the ground. It looked up at Wenyu and blinked. Its beautiful eyes were as crystal clear as glass. Could this be a little lion cub? Wenyu wasn't sure if she had a natural affinity for zoos. Even though it was just a young beast, she didn't make any rash moves. No matter how young, it was still the ruler of the grasslands. A pure carnivore through and through. The little lion cub stared at Wenyu with its round eyes. Seeing that she didn't react, it lifted one front paw and tentatively placed it on the girl's ankle. Due to being raised indoors for years, the little paw's fresh pads were very pink and tender. The sensation of it scraping against her ankle was both soft and ticklish. Wenyu couldn't help but shrink back slightly. Song Hiking's brow furrowed slightly. He immediately scolded Nizu softly, telling it not to be presumptuous. The golden-haired lion cub seemed to hold him in great awe. It immediately leaped up, pounced into General Nate's arms, clawed its way up his military uniform belt, and finally perched on the man's shoulder. The beast is in Kao's camp, but its heart is with the Han lion cub, obediently keeping its distance. His eyes, however, were stealing glances. Wenyu's were amber in color, clear and translucent. His docile appearance was utterly well-behaved. General Nate said something apologetically. Wenyu looked towards Song Hiking. The latter's smile was faint and light. His lips parted slightly. His name is Nizu. He is General Nate's child, a very beautiful golden lion cub. The child Wenyu was so shocked that his pupils trembled violently. It was simply unbelievable. Does your general have a wife? Having a wife and still clearing a room for her. How dare he? This behavior in a beast world where females are revered would deserve being dunked in a pig cage, right? Song Hiking's brow furrowed with confusion, seeming not to understand why she asked that. But he still answered serious, no, on our Jowoang star. 80 billion males do not have wives. This completely shocked Wenyu to the core, leaving her utterly stunned, thinking, without females to reproduce, then where did these 80 billion warriors come from? Song Hiking took in her indescribable expression, his clever mind turning. He probably guessed what she was thinking. His fingers gently stroked the girl's satin-smooth hair. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but curve into a soft arc. Don't be afraid. Jowoang Star since ancient times has been an all-male society. As you can see, we have already formed a stable society, with upright conduct and a wholesome atmosphere. We are capable of reproducing offspring through genetic technology, and have already developed, subject to the powerful inhibitors of the artificial estrus period. In the strictest sense, we do not need females. Song Hiking lowered his gaze to meet hers directly, the top of his head. Light filtered through long lashes into ink black, pupils beautiful and clear like a deep pool. He carefully worded, Wenyu, I have an intuition. You are a gift from the beast god, bestowed upon us, Zhuo Yang's new gift. Stay, and we will do everything we can to give you the best life. He paused, his tone turning somewhat forlorn. If you miss your homeland, I will also spare no effort to send you back. I can sense from your language. It must be an ancient and beautiful land. Song Hiking's dark, profound eyes locked tightly onto Wenyu, his tone carrying a barely perceptible tremor. Forgive my presumption. Yuzu, can you tell me your wish in advance? As a successful case of 9-year compulsory education, Wenyu opened her mouth without hesitation. I want to go home. Although when reading novels, she often complained that the females in the settings seemed to rely on spiritual comfort, holding an exalted status. But in reality, most were kept in greenhouses, delicate and weak, unable to care for themselves, completely nurtured through pampering and indulgence. But when she truly arrived in this beast world, with many males and few females, where the males here could survive entirely on inhibitors, then the status of females would truly be precarious. An even more terrifying thought even arose in her mind. Why are there no females on Jowoang Star? It can almost be imagined The successful development of inhibitors undoubtedly instantly reversed the long-standing situation of oppression. A vast number of male beastmen retaliated with brutal killings, to the point where females became extinct. After hundreds of millions of years of evolution, they realized the necessity and benefits of female existence. Naturally, a new cycle of pursuit and slaughter began again. Wenyu was a carefree orphan on Earth, but she had faith in her heart. She was a child raised by her motherland and society. She would rather return to live an ordinary life than live in a specially crafted honeypot. In this godforsaken place, she was isolated and weak, and could not be restrained by anything. Males could be pampered like giant pandas, but could also be smashed into a pulp at any moment. Unexpectedly, the little female was determined to leave. Song Hiking's expression turned slightly serious. He lowered his long, delicate eyelashes, his tone unable to conceal his despondency. "All right. I will find a way to send Wenyu home." Because of his low spirits, he didn't even notice the look in Wenyu's eyes, becoming cautious and fearful, and thus did not specifically explain to her why there are no females on Zhuoang Star. This is a humiliating history engraved in the hearts of all Zhuoang citizens. In the ancient times of military backwardness, interstellar bandits plundered all their females. At that time, over 90% of the beastmen suffered mental breakdowns, lost their sanity, and the surviving males could not reproduce and thrive. The scorching sun beastmen are nearly extinct, until the great Dr. Carmody developed the first psychic inhibitor. Only then did the beastmen tribes manage to survive on the brink and gradually develop into today's prosperity. Because they had suffered catastrophic destruction, the citizens of Puyang are unprecedentedly united. They long to bring back the female descendants who were plundered in the past. But out of humanitarianism, they cannot bear to separate them from their current compatriots. Thus, they often dispatch new ambassadors to offer condolences. Females are scarce and precious existences in the new era. There is not a single planet willing to let females travel to another star. Therefore, although Zhuoang Star is already at the forefront of technology and military, it is still frequently criticized and mocked by other planets. Pitiful wretches abandoned by females. Incompetent fools, excessively favored by the beast god. The peerlessly beautiful little crane reveals a helpless and fragile expression. Wenyu's heart is instantly filled with pity. Anyway, there's no way to return to Earth right now. Wenyu's comforting, player-like words come out effortlessly. "Kinking, you don't want me to leave, do you?" Song Hee, wanting her to feel psychological pressure, forces a smile and says, "No. I hope Wenyu can reunite with her family soon. If Wenyu is, I am happy." Wenyu shakes her head at Kinking. "I don't have a family. I grew up in an orphanage. Actually, I'm not that eager to go home. I can stay here for a while. But everything here is so unfamiliar. It's hard for me to adapt. Besides you, I don't even have anyone to talk to." She truly meant what she said. She is not some kind of smart person. "I suffered a lot before I could get into university." Let her be in a consciousness with a completely different language and culture. Make a comeback. Really going to collapse. I can only hope that Zhuang's new technology is advanced enough to locate Earth in the vast sea of stars, based on the description she provided. Or perhaps, waking up from sleep, she might just travel back. Song Hee-king never expected that such a cute and fragile little female would actually be abandoned by her parents. Immediately, unable to control his emotions, he grasped her slightly cool hands. "I'm sorry, it was my oversight. I will often talk with you and also help you adapt to life here before finding a way back home. All of this will be resolved very soon. I promise." When you didn't quite understand what Song Hee-king meant to resolve, enveloped by his long, warm hands, the touch smoother than the finest feathers, she couldn't help but feel her face grow warm. He evasively changed the subject. "I'm tired and want to rest." "Well, Wenyu, come with me." Song Heking led her to the next room. As they passed General Nate, the tiny Nizu ball on his shoulder seized the opportunity. It kicked its legs and pounced, landing steadily in Wen Yu's arms. Although it was a lion cub, Nizu was only the size of a cat. When it came over, it looked like a golden-haired kitten. Wen Yu wasn't scared. Instead, she instinctively reached out and cradled the little one. To prevent it from falling to the ground, Nizu adjusted into a comfortable position in her arms. After stretching its short legs a couple of times, it actually transformed into a delicate, jade-carved little doll, wearing a small shirt and overalls, with golden hair, brown eyes, and fair skin tinged with pink. It was as exquisite as a Barbie doll. Only then did Wen Yu understand why the little one was called Nizu. Compared to his father, General Nate, the little cub was as white as a snowball. The little lion cub's voice was adorably milky and cute. The communication barrier didn't stop Wen Yu's girlish heart from overflowing. As a lone soul, she never expected to be able to hold such a well-behaved child in this lifetime. Nizu looked only 3 or 4 years old, so Wen Yu held him effortlessly in her arms. The little one smiled, revealing 2 small pointed teeth, and his tiny hands tugged at Wen Yu's collar, climbing upward. Soon, he wrapped his arms around her neck. His soft, tender face, still chubby with baby fat, nuzzled against Wen Yu's cheek again and again. General Nate's cheeks felt hot. It was just concealed beneath his bronze complexion, not very obvious. He never knew his own son could be so boisterous, such a show-off. Nizu had always been taught by Song Heking as a student. Following the teacher's precocious maturity, he learned it to a T. Every time he led troops on campaign, the toys he brought back for him, without exception, were all deemed childish and disliked. He, this father, was compared to his 3.5-year-old son. Wen Yu was originally a bit tense, holding the fragrant and soft Nizu in her arms. The nervous feeling quickly faded. She hoisted the little cub up a bit, letting him sit on her arm. Feeling Wen Yu's closeness, Nizu's eyes sparkled brightly. He hugged her even more dependently. His large eyes with curly lashes blinked. His cherry-red little mouth pouted, and he planted a kiss on the girl's cheek with a smack. At such an extremely close distance, Wen Yu could even see the fine down on his cheeks. His face was whiter and more tender than a peeled egg, like a holy and beautiful little angel. Nizu pulled away immediately after the touch. His already fair, pink-tinged face flushed with color. He shyly buried his face in the girl's neck. He knew his behavior today would absolutely be laughed at by the adults. A descendant of the pure-blooded Lion King, actually acting coquettish like a weak little kitten. So clingy. But he had never seen a beastman of this breed before. The scent on her made him feel very comfortable. Coming back to my senses, I had already drawn close to him without a second thought. He really felt so different. He was fragrant and soft, completely unlike those hard, rigid males he had encountered before. Not the same at all. Even when perched on his father's shoulder, it was nowhere near as comfortable as being held in her embrace. Nizu now only wanted to stay with this new beastman. Even an instinctual urge to suckle surged forth. So he went ahead and gave Wen Yu's cheek a little suck. The lion cub's movements were cautious and careful. Wen Yu could have easily dodged. But why would she want to dodge? Little Nizu was absolutely adorable, just holding him like this. Wen Yu couldn't suppress the urge to squeeze and knead him. But in front of the person's father, it's really hard to proceed. She wanted to put Nizu down, but the little one clung tightly to her, refusing to let go, shaking his head like a rattle drum. His glassy eyes welled up with aggrieved tears. Wen Yu had no choice. She could only look at General Nate. General Nate, may I play with Nizu for a while? He's a bit clingy. This boy isn't usually taught this way. It seems his manners have been swallowed whole. Song Heking looked somewhat embarrassed, dutifully acting as the translator. General Nate, originally mortified by his son's impolite behavior, was almost too ashamed to show his face. But then he heard the little female's gentle voice, soft as a spring breeze. And then Song Hye-king told him she wanted to play with Nizu, to gain the favor of a female. This is Nizu's greatest honor. General Nate naturally nodded in agreement. In an unnoticed corner, Nate secretly gave his son a warning look, telling him to take good care of the little female and not to disturb her rest. Song Hye-king led Wen Yu to the room. Standing in the spacious and bright entrance, Wen Yu realized how mistaken she had been. Because experimental resources were completely tilted toward females, she had previously assumed that even if Song Hye-king was the chief commander, the treatment might not be that great. Now, she was told that the empire had no females, yet the commander's lounge before her eyes was actually as large as 200 square meters. This was what Song Hye-king called simple. She really was still ignorant and uninformed. A clear yet foolish college student, since the daily necessities inside had just been replaced. The spacious and comfortable room was completely refreshed. The decor was a very minimalist black and white style. Song Hye-king specifically ordered someone to light calming and soothing incense. A faint, delicate fragrance refreshed the mind. The base conditions are tough, so for now, please bear with it, Wen Yu, Song Hye-king said, while demonstrating to Wen Yu how to use the basic facilities in the room. She maintained a calm expression on the surface, but felt deeply ashamed in her heart. Since there are no females on Zhuoang Star, naturally, one cannot purchase beautiful and exquisite feminine products, either. She can only be made to put up with using the same as them. There were no clothes suitable for her in the wardrobe. Instead, there were military uniforms she had never worn. This was too presumptuous. But there was no other way. He had already applied to the Pyongyang embassy stationed on other planets for the transmission of literature and materials related to females, believing that soon these materials would be widely distributed and studied. Song Hye-king was confident in achieving the goal from learning to surpassing. Wen Yu was the only female on Pyongyang Star, and even more, the only treasure. He would lead all the males to provide her with the highest quality life in the entire star system. Wen Yu hugged little Nizu and threw herself onto the big bed. The fluffy, warm quilt was softer than velvet. She bounced several times when she fell into the mattress. It's practically her dream bed. Wen Yu is not settling at all. She was so happy, she kept rolling around. Thank you, King. I really like it here. Let's leave the general's room for him and Nizu to live in, okay? I want to stay in your room. The dad moving around with the child is such a hassle. Although Song Hye-king's place here, except for the bathroom, has an open layout. Each area is well organized. Wen Yu thinks it's quite nice. Especially the ceiling design is very unique. She noticed as soon as she entered the room. It's actually a real-time changing star map. Wen Yu is once again amazed by the high technology of the interstellar era. Overhead, it looks like a deep starry sky, with infinite space stretching outward. Isn't this just like lying in bed watching the stars? Seeing him captivated by the star map, Song Hye-king didn't say anything more. The general's room is indeed larger and more comfortable, but it doesn't have this system installed. He conveyed Wen Yu's meaning to General Nate, watching Nizu revert to beast form and play around with Wen Yu. A touch of tenderness showed on Nate's face. But when he heard the little female reject his goodwill, he looked somewhat dejected. He had never interacted with females before, and he wasn't as clever and quick-witted as Song Hye-king. All he could think of was to give the best things to the little female. But she refused, and General Nate simply didn't know what to do. He even somewhat regretted his initial decision to attend military academy. If he also became a disciple of the High Priest and studied astronomy and celestial phenomena, that would be great. But fortunately, he still has Nizu. Nizu will take good care of this little female for him. Exiting the room, Song Hye-king gently closed the door. General Nate's sharp, stern sword-like eyebrows immediately furrowed. He asked his strategist for advice as if facing a formidable enemy. What should be done next? He could tell. This little female was very polite to them, but had no sense of belonging whatsoever. If they couldn't change her mind in a short time, she might leave at any moment. Song Hye-king thought for a moment and said to first solve the communication problem. Upgrade the main system in the control room. You order the arrangement for everyone to learn Huaxia language. General Nate nodded in agreement with the grave expression. Emergency training is to be conducted for all males. This is a massive project, Song Hye-king added. Besides that, the social welfare system exclusive to females must also commence construction immediately. I have already reported to His Majesty. He will handle this matter himself. Between Nate and Song Hye-king, their relationship is less like superior and subordinate, and more like that of fist and brain. Externally, Nate is the general who charges into battle. Internally, Song Hye-king is the strategist who plans and schemes. Therefore, in handling the matter of the little female, Nate unconditionally trusts his military advisor. Even though Wen Yu's gaze remained intently fixed on Song Hye-king, making him a bit jealous. A bit, but not much. He, a dignified imperial general, would stoop to such petty, jealous behavior. Thus, when Wen Yu and Nizu, tired playing, fell onto the bed for a midday rest, the high-level leaders of the first military base were working overtime with their adjutants and subordinates, researching how to nurture this. Politicians from neighboring planets, upon hearing that scorching sun star was urgently gathering information related to females, not only failed to take it seriously, but instead scoffed in disdain. They mocked those poor wretches without a wife's affection, while simultaneously, as if it cost nothing, sent over their own planet's excellent theses on serving females. Click to pack and send. These are for the female scarce longevity stars. Almost every male considers them a must-choose. It's hardly any secret. Not only can they be exchanged at the Scorching Sun Embassy for a generous reward, but they can also show off their planet's strength. To those single dogs, why wouldn't they? Thus, after layers of approval, the documents transmitted to the base reading room still pile up like mountains. The quality varies. Normally, General Nate naturally has no patience to flip through these hefty volumes, but at this moment, he reads with great seriousness, even consulting the dictionary repeatedly over a single word he doesn't understand. Just as he finishes reading 101 Ways to Please Master in his hands, a small booklet beneath it reveals a leather cover, on which are strikingly written several flowing, elegant handwritten characters. The husband-slave's counterattack and rise to power notes. Due to years of external warfare, General Nate also has some understanding of the situation on other longevity stars. He knows that one female there can legally have multiple partners. These male partners are also divided into various ranks within the family. The sole principal husband enjoys unrivaled prominence, followed in order by side husbands, attendant husbands, and husband slaves, as well as lovers with no formal status. The hierarchy is determined not only by the male's identity, ability, and wealth, but most importantly, by the favor of the wife master. Those who can maintain the wife master's sacred favor without decline. Never mind side husband, as long as they are willing to strive and improve themselves. Making it to the position of the legitimate husband is not a problem at all. The combined Star Admiral, who had faced Nate multiple times, possessed considerable talent and ambition, came from a wealthy family, yet, due to his straightforward temper, he did not know how to please his wife master, and only ended up with the status of a husband killer. And it is said that the principal husband in her household, this is an eight-faced, exquisite, gaudily dressed cuckoo bird. Nate once found this very difficult to understand, but also had no habit of inquiring into the private affairs of enemy leaders. Not knowing out of what psychology, Nate's slightly calloused fingers opened the notebook, only to see written on the title page, "Endure the bitterest of hardships. Marry the one in your heart." Dedicate this book to commemorate my youth of advancing step by step with caution. Until the time I stood shoulder to shoulder with my wife master. Husband slaves are mostly low-born servants. Due to some accidents, by chance, I received the pity of a female, and had the fortune to be taken home by her. A husband slave is no different from the servants at home, except they are qualified to serve the wife master, without the support of status and wealth, no matter how much the wife master dotes on them. At most, they will only be a servant in this lifetime. Yet the owner of this notebook actually climbed from a husband slave all the way to the position of the principal husband. His wolfish ambition is evident. It is likely that what this notebook records are heretical methods that the world cannot tolerate. General Nate's expression turned slightly cold, taking advantage of the inattention of his adjutant and other officers. With lightning speed, he tucked that shady little booklet into his pocket. He absolutely will not allow anyone to use these despicable means to approach or even seduce the little female, because she was physically and mentally exhausted. When you, for the first time ever, took a nap today and slept for a full 2 hours. When she woke up, her mind was somewhat dazed, till a warm, wet little snake licked her palm. She, with a short leg kick, jumped off the bed, instantly transforming into a delicate, jade-carved little gentleman, trotting away in fluffy slippers. Clip-clop, clip-clop. When you wide and stared at the starry sky for a while, before realizing she was not on Earth, she pushed herself up from the soft, bouncy mattress, and saw Nizu running in, holding something. It turned out to be a brand new pair of fluffy slippers. Little Nizu was wearing overalls, with a bow tie at the collar of his white shirt, young in age, yet already possessing the demeanor of a little gentleman, gracefully placing the slippers by the bedside. When you said thank you with warmth in her heart, she lifted the blanket and sat on the edge of the bed. Nizu suddenly half crouched down, a tiny little bundle, squatting on the carpet, picking up the shoes, wanting to help her put them on. When you was greatly startled in her heart. Are you kidding me? You're only 3.5 years old. There's no need to be this sensible. She quickly dodged, scooping Nizu up with both hands. Her 2 feet easily slipped into the soft, comfortable, furry slippers. Nizu pursed his cherry-colored lips, his eyes bright and clear, feeling disappointed by her refusal, yet really liking being close to her. She hugged him again, though it was more like picking up a chick. Nizu was worried her arms would get sore from holding him like this, and was about to speak. The Bodhi-like light brain on his neck suddenly projected an urgent notification. The light brain display was a virtual projection, when you could also see the symbols and text on it. But she couldn't understand Zhouoang's script, nor would Nizu explain it to her like Song Heking would. Only from the page's incessantly flashing red light symbol could she infer that the matter notified must be extremely urgent. Otherwise, it wouldn't have popped up directly without the owner's permission. After reading this notification, Nizu's thumb solemnly pressed his fingerprint onto the screen. The chubby little face turned towards Wen Yu with a brilliantly bright smile. Then, he used body language to convey to Wen Yu that he had something to attend to. He would accompany Wen Yu for a little while. From his gestures, it was clear he seemed to need to go do his homework. So it was a message specifically notifying him to go study, having endured the hardships of study for over a decade. Wen Yu was seeing for the first time a child so passionate about learning. His smile was bright and pure, completely from the heart. Even though he had matters to attend to, Nizu didn't simply leave Wen Yu behind. Instead, he poured her a cup of warm beast milk. Holding Wen Yu's hand, he led her to the reading room, where the teacher was. Before parting, Nizu's small hand lifted Wen Yu's palm, slightly bowing his head. His soft, cherry blossom-like lips landed on the back of her fair hand. A kiss. Wen Yu almost covered her heart and screamed wildly. This old auntie's heart was about to melt from the cuteness, especially since the little lion cub kept looking back every few steps. blushing as he smiled at her. If conditions had allowed, when, you would have even prepared the size and color of the sack. She suddenly thought of a question. Since General Nate could give birth to a lion cub all by himself, did that mean here she could also, painlessly, have a little treasure all her own? It's not that Wenyu's thoughts were running wild. It's just that Nizu completely fulfilled all her expectations of a child. Cute and adorable. Also very pleasing to the eye. Although on Earth, when you can also get married and have children. But she used to have marriage phobia. One of her friends, because she couldn't see people clearly, was beaten into the ICU by her scumbag husband's family 3 days after marriage. If her parents hadn't called and heard something wrong on the other end, she probably would have been beaten to death. Ever since then, Wenyu has had a shadow over marriage. No matter how gentlemanly and elegant a man appears on the surface, who knows what kind of monster he might be behind closed doors? So much so that even at her age, because she has the desire but not the courage, she hasn't even held a man's hand. Only daring to hide under the covers and frantically scroll through pictures of abs on her phone. Drooling over handsome guys. Standing at the entrance of the reading room. Wenyu was lost in thought while drinking beast milk. She didn't even know what animal's milk it was. It didn't have the fishy smell of cow or goat milk. Rich and creamy. Sweet and delicious. With a click, the lock turned. The door was pulled open from inside. Having just woken up, the little female's slightly curly long hair wasn't tied up yet. Her cheeks flushed with a tipsy pink. Biting the straw and spacing out, she looked especially soft and adorable. Song Hye-kyung's serious expression instantly softened. His thin lips curved into a pleasant arc. With one hand on his shoulder, he bowed and said, "Good afternoon. Beautiful Miss Wenyu." Every word Wenyu ever said to him, he kept in his heart. In their linguistic habits, referring to girls as females doesn't seem polite. Although Song Hye-kyung no longer uses honorifics for her, his attitude still leaves Wenyu somewhat at a loss. This kind of respect and humility toward females is probably ingrained in his bones. He helplessly smiled back. Through the gap, he saw mountains of books and documents piled inside. Kinking, "Am I disturbing your work?" When Nizu brought her over, her small body using both hands and feet, gesturing in various ways. Only then did he realize this was a reading room. "When you thought she was brought here to read and learn characters. Since I'm here, I might as well settle in. It's no solution to remain illiterate forever." Unexpectedly, Song Hye-kyung was also there. Inside, there were also many officers in crisp military uniforms organizing documents. At a glance, everyone looked solemn and serious. Walking with purpose, stacks of materials were quickly sorted and neatly arranged. Song Hye-kyung shook his head. The silver-white ear cuff shimmered under the light. His stray hair brushed over his brow ridge with the movement. How could that be? When you could never be a disturbance to me. He paused, his duck feather-like eyelashes lowered, his handsome brows and eyes revealing a hint of languidness. When you came just in time. There are a few matters I'd like to seek your opinion on. When you was very surprised. What could it possibly be? That requires seeking the opinion of an outsider like him. But still followed Song Hye-kyung into the reading room. Females have a natural attraction to males. Even though no females have appeared on Scorched Sunstar for hundreds of millions of years. The instinct carved into the bones and blood of male beastmen by females still exists, almost as soon as the little female appeared. The officers in the reading room couldn't help but shift their attention. Under the pressure of the commander's authority, they didn't dare to look openly, only stealing glances under the cover of their actions. Even the usually steady and self-possessed General Nate also looked up. The little female was petite in stature, her skin snow-white and delicate, glistening and translucent like fine jade. Her full forehead and perky nose bridge resembled rolling hills, not to mention the stunningly beautiful curve of her crimson lips. The man beside her was also handsome and tall. His pure white military uniform wrapped around his perfectly proportioned young body. Under the brim of his hat, his features were exquisite. His complexion cool and pale. His nose bridge, elegant and straight. His lips thin and lightly colored. The smooth lines extended to his Adam's apple. The little female was especially relaxed in front of Song Hye-king. The two chatted intimately, as if from old times. The handsome man and beautiful woman were a perfect match. This scene made all the males present secretly swallow blood, wishing they could take his place. In contrast, General Nate was pinching the corner of his book, somewhat nervous. He had just learned a few greeting phrases from Song Hye-king, and was hesitating whether to step forward and say hello. At this moment, seeing Song Hye-king and Wen-yu chatting happily, the confidence that Nate had painstakingly built up collapsed in an instant. He was neither as clever as Song Hye-king, nor as handsome as Song Hye-king, having dealt with weapons and enemies year-round. He was usually the one others flattered. He had almost forgotten how to socialize. On the battlefield, General Nate, who charged forward fearlessly, felt hesitant for the first time, pretending to flip through a book to divert his attention. But in reality, not a single word sank in. Song Hye-king led Wen-yu to a middle-aged officer, personally pulling out a chair for Wen-yu to sit. He was about to greet him, when the middle-aged officer opposite suddenly stood up, standing straight and rigid, his voice firm and resonant. "Good afternoon, Your Excellency." Wen-yu. The officer's voice was deep, his words clear. What came out was Huaxia language. Wen-yu looked at Song Hye-king in surprise, feeling utterly incredulous. This was what he had been busy resolving. To accommodate her habits, teaching others to speak Huaxia language. Song Hye-king felt embarrassed under her gaze, lowering his eyes to explain. "I used the mainframe system to compile a simultaneous interpreter. Now, they can all communicate with you through the optical brain. It's still in the trial phase. The system isn't perfect yet. Please forgive its shortcomings." Hearing this, the astonishment in Wen-yu's eyes grew even deeper. He just took a nap. Song Hye-king secretly completed such a huge project. He himself is a computer science student. He knows how hair-pulling coding work can be. Not to mention something as flexible and variable as language. She had only even heard the pronunciation, never seen him write the characters. Song Hye-king saw her fall into silence. A bad guess welled up in his heart. "Sorry, if you mind us using it, I'll revoke it immediately." Don't mind. Not having to learn of myself." "When, you couldn't ask for more." She hurriedly interrupted him. "This is just fine. Later I'll write the corresponding text for you too, to help with memorization." With the aid of the light brain, the people around could understand their speech. The middle-aged officer even saluted solemnly. "Your Excellency, Wen-yu. You are truly too generous to selflessly impart advanced writing. On behalf of all Zhuoang citizens, I express our gratitude to you." Wen-yu was so startled she was at a loss. Kanji above. She was just purely too lazy to learn a foreign language. That said, it had the feeling of invading an alien planet with the culture of her homeland. It was so secretly thrilling it made her tremble. "Then thank you, Wen-yu." Song Hye-king breathed a sigh of relief. Beautiful dark pupils gazed at him. She opened her mouth to introduce. Middle-aged officer. "This is Nan Mo, an S's level forging master. I want to ask him to forge a light brain for you. Empire's 800 billion residents. Only a very few individuals are qualified to use the light brains specially crafted by the Forge Masters. They are powerful weapons that integrate communication enhancement and spatial distortion into one, and can be forged into specific forms to achieve a disguise effect." The ear bone clip used by Song Hye-king. "This is Master Nan Mo's masterpiece, code named Shade. Not only does it greatly enhance hearing to the maximum extent, it is also equipped with what can be called the most agile combat mech on the blazing sun star." Wen-yu's eyes lit up. Not because she knew how powerful an S's rank Ford Master is. But because in the interstellar era, a light brain is equivalent to a mobile phone on Earth, this means she can surf the web at 12 grams again. She wondered what fun things are on the new network of the blazing sun star. 800 billion handsome guys. There should be a lot of gossip to follow, right? It's not that Wenyu is delusional. But since arriving at this base, she hasn't seen a single ORC with an unsightly appearance. Even this middle-aged master Nanmo still retains his charm. For the first time in his life, facing a female up close, Nanmo felt excited. Even his tongue was a bit tangled. Your Excellency, Wenyu. What are your requirements for the light brain's performance and appearance? I will do my utmost to satisfy you and make you feel ashamed. Your Excellency, you're at it again. But with so many males in the base, he doesn't need to correct each and every one. Reverence is always better than frivolity. He glanced at Song Hiking's ear cartilage, like a piece of art inlaid on the pale oracle, reflecting a cold, flowing light amidst the pure black, fragmented hair. Beautiful and flamboyant. Pretty it is. But when you shook his head inwardly, he politely inquired of Master Nanmo. I want the light that strengthens arm strength. As for the appearance, something like a watch, bracelet, or ring would do. After all, fists are the hard truth. Since there's this condition, she should first get some self-defense weapons. Master Nanmo saw through her thoughts at a glance, tentatively asking, if you don't mind the appearance, I do have a ready-made set of wrist guards here. Equipped with 3 seconds mecha, the attack power is extremely formidable. When you was startled, there's mecha? He previously thought the light brain was just a simple light brain. But aren't you an S's level forger? You can actually forge mecha beyond your level? When you was somewhat curious, compared to Wen Yu's newcomer ignorance, the other officers gasped in shock. There are no more than 10 sets of 3 seconds mecha across the entire scorching sun star. The commander's soaring eagle mecha, though its performance is already exceptionally superior, is only S's level. A fervent mecha enthusiast couldn't help but ask each other, could it be the legendary Tengshe mecha? Yes, precisely. Tengshe. Master Nanmo nodded. His gaze, however, remained respectfully fixed on Wenyu. This mech was forged by my esteemed mentor, after the former Blazing Sun Marshal, Keynes, heroically sacrificed himself. I retrieved it from the battlefield ruins and reforged it a second time, elevating its explosive performance to an even higher level. Nanmo took out a pair of bracers from the spatial storage. He solemnly handed them to Wenyu. Your Excellency, Wenyu, please take a look. If you truly cannot accept them, I can also forge an S's class mech for you. The little female looks so gentle and beautiful. Nanmo is very worried. She might not like these pitch black bracers. She deserves all precious and beautiful jewelry. When you took them, they were a pair of pure black leather bracers. The serpent pattern branded on them was mighty and imposing, with scales covering the body, long horns atop the head, and massive talon-like wings spread wide. Their cloud-traversing, rainless momentum rivaled that of a soaring dragon. The base's high-ranking officers had spontaneously gathered in a circle, crowding around to witness this rare legendary radiance. Someone even suggested asking Wenyu to release the mech for a glimpse of its true form. After all, it's a 3S class mech. No male could resist such a temptation. Not to mention this group of passionate soldiers. Their obsession with powerful mechs has reached a fanatical level. Any soldier who has witnessed General Nate in action on the battlefield yearns for that Reaper-like lethality. Just a slight move can make the invading enemies flee in panic. Nate naturally noticed the commotion over here. Hearing the requests from several subordinates wanting to see the mech, he pulled back his chair and strode toward the little female. Wenyu was already under Song Hiking's guidance at this moment, and had put on the wrist guard. The pitch-black wrist guard covered her snow-white, lotus-like arm. The stark contrast in colors was almost dazzling. As soon as the light brain was put on, the authentication program automatically popped up. This is a 3 seconds mech. Just by looking at the envy in the eyes of the surrounding officers. When, you couldn't possibly refuse it. A man's promise is the least trustworthy. What you hold in your hand is the most real. In the near future, this mech might become her life-saving weapon. Song Hye-king helped Wen Yu complete the authentication and taught her how to upgrade the system. After installing the simultaneous interpreter, the system language on the light brain display could be set to Chinese. Even Wen Yu, a novice, could use it with ease. Wen Yu is really smart. For the first time using it, she didn't even need the beginner's tutorial. Song Hye-king was pleasantly surprised and praised her generously. Wen Yu secretly thought to herself. She had already imagined it hundreds of times while reading novels, hearing everyone's request. And since Wen Yu also wanted to see what a 3 seconds mech looked like first, she was just about to pull out the mech's hand from the space twist, but was stopped by a large palm. Nate placed a hand on his chest and bowed to him. Lord Wen Yu, I apologize for interrupting your enjoyment. I suggest that the 3 seconds mecha should not be exposed in public. Wen Yu's mouth twitched, almost unable to hold back a laugh. But the hand he had extended obediently retracted. Thank you, General Nate, for reminding me. I will remember. The little female smiled gently, sincerely thanking him. Nate's already tense emotions grew even more agitated. No need to thank me. The 3 seconds mecha has immense destructive power. Deploying it recklessly could harm innocent people. And this matter should not be publicized. As soon as the words left his mouth, Nate wished he could slap himself twice. He had misspoken yet again. Would the little female dislike him for being clumsy with words? Nate endured the shame, forcing himself to stand calmly beside Wen Yu, with Song Hye-king on the other side, forming a protective stance on both sides. Wen Yu had been carried away by excitement earlier, but now, having calmed down, he also understood that wealth should not be flaunted. No one knows what his mecha looks like. So in critical moments, he naturally has an extra layer of security. The key is to catch others by surprise. The little female accepted the Tang Snake wrist guard. Although the soldiers were disappointed they couldn't get a good look. Not a single one voiced any objection. After all, this was the only female on the blazing sun star in billions of years. In some ways, even more important than His Majesty the Emperor. Don't talk about a set of 3S mecha being enshrined. Even if she wanted the stars or the moon, they would pluck them for her. Everyone was present. Everyone, please sit. Song Hye-king settled Wen Yu at the head of the long table. He himself sat to the left, slightly below. The distance, neither too close nor too far, made Wen Yu feel particularly at ease. The 2 highest leaders of the base were flanking her at any moment. Looking around, both sides were filled with military bigwigs in distinctly different styles of uniforms. A secret thrill ran through Wen Yu's heart. This was more exciting than any holographic game. But this setup was somewhat grand. What matter could be worth such a major mobilization on their part? Song Hye-king gave him a reassuring nod, picked up a stack of documents and stood up. His posture was elegant, his complexion fair. Too sharp beauty is not an exaggeration to call it divine looks. Every move carries a captivating and cold aura. But his next sentence made Wen Yu completely despair. Song Hye-king first bowed to Wen Yu. He took a deep breath, feeling somewhat reluctant. Wen Yu, I'm very sorry. According to the detection report sent by the Imperial Astronomical Center, within 500 light-years of the Blue River Galaxy, there is no planet suspected to be Earth. With current spacecraft technology, even at full power, it only reaches light speed, and the age of a natural death is precisely around 500 years old. That is to say, searching beyond 500 light-years is meaningless. Hearing him say this, Wen Yu was not the least bit surprised. Ever since crossing over, she had vaguely guessed it. She just held onto unrealistic fantasies in her heart. Now that the fantasy is shattered, She can realistically trample on the beautiful submissive man. Thinking about it, that seems pretty good too. Moreover, she also has a supposedly very powerful Tangserpent mecha in her hands. If one day these beastmen can't bear the oppression and rise up together, even if she can't protect herself, it would be more than enough to take some little beauties with her. Wenyu comforted herself with these thoughts. On the surface, she gave Song Heking a sweet smile. It's okay, King, just do your best. Everyone takes such good care of me. Staying here isn't bad either. At least for now, he is being utterly sincere and devoted to her. Wenyu judges the situation and acts accordingly. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. If the enemy moves, I move first. He doesn't have a fetish for enslaving men. Building good relations is never wrong. Moreover, facing Song Hiking's stunningly handsome face that could anger gods and resent mortals, he feels his lustful thoughts and audacity are starting to proliferate. These words fell upon the ears of the crowd, yet they were not taken so lightly. They had not found the maternal instinct in the little female. In their hearts, they felt somewhat secretly pleased, although it was heaven's will. This way, the little female could stay forever on Scorching Sunstar. Their Scorching Sunstar would also have its own female. They never expected the little female to be so understanding, not only enduring her sadness and forcing a smile. Her gentle tone even carried a faint hint of soothing them. Immediately, guilt welled up in the hearts of most males present, long mocked by surrounding beast stars as the beastmen of Scorching Sunstar, outwardly tough. In their bones, they were actually etched with deep-seated inferiority. Even on the interstellar battlefield, there were vile individuals who maliciously used psychological warfare, specifically bringing females to the front lines, to hurl verbal insults and attacks at them. They had also reflected countless times, wondering if they were utterly terrible. Therefore, not a single female was willing to save them. But now, the situation is different. They not only possess a female, but such a beautiful, kind, and intelligent female. The beastmen only feel. All beautiful words are too inadequate to describe him. They wish they could beat drums and gongs to announce it to the whole world, but can only keep the joy hidden in my heart, because the little female is too delicate and tender. Before there is sufficient preparation, they do not allow any potential dangers to arise. For example, enemy star spies assassinate. Wenyu still doesn't know what outrageous image he has been mythologized into. In the eyes of these handsome big shots, before he sees everyone's eyes redden in unison, even the iron-blooded, cold, and severe General Nate has a complex look in his eyes. He looks at Song Heking at a loss. The latter presses his fair finger bones against his lips, gives a light cough. A faint, thin blush spreads across his cold, pale cheeks. We proceed to the next agenda item, the Republic. Combining the newly imparted experience, a female has the right to match with one principal husband, 5 secondary husbands, 10 attendant husbands, and an unlimited number of husband slaves. As the only female on our blazing Sunstar, I believe this restriction can be relaxed for Wenyu. As for how much to relax, Song Hiking's feathered lashes trembled slightly. His gaze lowered, not daring to meet Wenyu's eyes. He softly asked Wenyu what she thought would be appropriate. Suddenly being called out, Wenyu was greatly shocked. Going along with local customs was one thing, but now they were directly arranging things for her. Considering they were all high-quality, handsome guys, she half-heartedly went along with it. But asking her how many she wanted, this, how could she possibly say? She couldn't exactly say the more the merrier, could she? In the end, reason triumphed over lustful courage. Wenyu cautiously asked, do I have any obligations towards the matched males, such as regular mental soothing or forced breeding of offspring? Of course not. Song Heking shook his head without hesitation. Although such traditions have always existed on other beast planets, on our Zhuoang star, we have the most advanced and potent inhibitors. Almost no males die from mental collapse. As for reproducing offspring, Data shows that artificially cultivated young are not inferior in any aspect to those naturally conceived. Nizu is one of the successful cases. Sensing her unease and defensiveness, Song Hye gently comforted Wenyu. Don't worry. They won't force you to do anything. They are selected to take care of your daily life. Otherwise, the Empire's 80 billion males might swarm over. At this point, a hint of helplessness appeared in Song Hye's beautiful eyes. If there are no strict screening criteria, those guys outside are not as disciplined as the military. They would probably fight over it until they're bloody. Endless covert and overt struggles would undoubtedly affect Wenyu's life. Being chased by 80 billion people, just thinking about it makes Wenyu's scalp tingle. As for marrying multiple males, this is simply not within the consideration of someone with gamophobia. Wenyu just wants to peacefully be a player. When she meets a type she likes, hold a small hand, embrace a slender waist. Having lived alone for so long, having outsiders at home always feels awkward. Not to mention she's currently homeless. Things like marrying and starting a family should wait until she's established herself first, since there was no chance on Earth to be a badass female protagonist in a satisfying story. Then, now on this planet, she must have a really good time. Wenyu looked at Song Hye with pleading eyes, her tone pitiful. Kinking, I don't want to be matched with other males. You'll help me, right? As a 10-year veteran bookworm, Wenyu has memorized the tactics of a scheming girl. With one order from the commander, what can 80 billion males do? Could they possibly rebel? Wenyu knows the reason she's being pampered. Mental soothing is secondary. The most important point is, her genes are precious. They can fundamentally change the situation of female extinction on the blazing sun star. If she refuses to bear offspring and is unwilling to cultivate artificial young, it may well provoke public outrage. Therefore, Wenyu always positions herself in a vulnerable stance when speaking, striving to avoid conflicts. These words, falling upon the ears of the crowd, are unanimously interpreted with an additional layer of meaning. She does not wish to be matched with other males. So, does this mean that Miss Wenyu's feelings for Commander Song? Envious and jealous gazes from the world simultaneously fall upon Song Hye's face. Even General Nate purses his lips tightly. His hands, resting on his knees, slowly clench into fists, the veins on the back of his hands bulging. If she doesn't want to be matched with a male, why didn't she seek his help? As the base leader and the Empire's youngest 5-star general, Nate undoubtedly holds more authority than Song Hye. If anyone dares to offend Wenyu, he wouldn't mind offering them a taste of bullets. Song Hye herself is even more emotionally stirred, to the point of doubting her own comprehension. Does what Wenyu what she thinks it means? She dares not be presumptuous. Her routine, official words are spoken with extra gentleness. Everything shall follow Wenyu's wishes. However, if she chooses not to be matched with a partner, she will need to select several exceptionally capable guardians as soon as possible for close protection. Having survived the ancient cataclysm, the beastmen still living on Scorchstar are, without exception, genetically superior. Those not strong enough were long ago eliminated, but no one dares to guarantee that among 80 billion citizens there aren't a few scoundrels. Song Hye was even more uneasy about Wenyu taking risks. He handed over a stack of neatly organized personal files. A guardian with no blood relation essentially means a partner candidate. Wenyu had eyes. Song Hye's kindness toward her was visible to the naked eye. He had thought Song Hye would take advantage of his proximity to secure a position for himself, but never expected that upon receiving the documents and looking through them, after flipping several pages, he still couldn't find Song Hye. Not even General Nate was there. Personal files collected by the military were extremely detailed, from major aspects like identity and wealth level, down to skin tone, measurements, and hobbies. Everything was included. Lu Wanbai, S's class, Icefield Snowwolf, Imperial Crown Prince, Blue Knight, S-Class. Shadow Spirit, Black Panther. Chief Holy Sword Knight, Carlos, S-Class. Blazing Illusion Fox, son of the interstellar richest man. Lin Luo, S's class. Yue Hua Zhao, the current emperor. When you kept flipping through unwillingly. And finally, among the last few on the final page, saw a familiar name. Song Heking, S-Class. Cloud Hidden, Red-Crowned Crane. Commander of the 1st Military Base. Nate, S's class. Golden-Maned Lion King. 5-star General of the 1st Military Base. Given Song Hiking's meticulousness in handling affairs, these files were certainly not arranged randomly. From front to back, they were prioritized. When, you noticed, under the condition that all are S rank or above, officers and commanders are generally placed in lower positions, probably because soldiers and officers need to be stationed outside for long periods. She hesitated for a moment, pulled out one sheet from the thick stack of documents, tapped the names of Song, Heking, and Nate, even though the big shots each have their own strengths, handsome in different ways. When you looked them over and was still most satisfied with Song Heking, she knew this might be the suspension bridge effect. People subconsciously transfer the heart-fluttering feeling from dangerous situations onto the person who appears, and Song Heking just happened to be such a character. Not only did he lead her out of the jungle, but also constantly paid attention to her condition, even pulling her back from negative emotions. When you thought, for Song Heking, it should be the same principle. This was his first time interacting with a female. He wasn't the only one experiencing the suspension bridge effect. Rather than choosing someone objectively suitable, it's better to choose someone with an established emotional foundation, even if it's just a very small part of the feelings. Seeing her action, Song Hiking's beautiful dark eyes instantly widened a bit, revealing an unconcealable spark of joy. The color of his eyes seemed to become even darker and brighter. Only for a mere instant, he returned to that aloof, restrained commander image, and showed a troubled expression, staying temporarily at the military base. During this period, it is our duty to protect you, Nate and I. But when you will have to return to society sooner or later. By then, we will be stationed at the base year-round, and simply cannot take good care of you. This matter should be planned for early. He paused, and uttered a sentence with some heaviness from his throat. Besides Nate and me, please select at least 2 more guardians. After my personal review, their character and abilities are both excellent. I believe they can certainly take good care of you. They can certainly take good care of you on my behalf. Wen Yu's favoritism toward him was so obvious. How could Song Heking not feel it? His heart was soft, and his protection was beyond measure. But he could not be selfish. There were too many people in the Empire more outstanding and suitable than him. He could not possibly stop Wen Yu from having guardians stronger than him. Internally, there would be people he trusted to serve Wen Yu well. Externally, he and Nate would surely protect the Yang Empire's petrol and peace marriage. Although Wen Yu felt he did not need any special care, it was under the insistence of Song Heking and a group of high-ranking officers that he casually picked 2 more who caught his eye. They were Carlos and Lin Luo. One was the son of the wealthiest man, and the other was His Majesty the Emperor. The reason was also simple. One of them had money, and the other had power, holding them in his hand. Wen Yu felt very at ease. It was her keen sense that caught a hint of the sweet fragrance of melon. Song Heking was by her side. Wen Yu could turn into 100,000 Ys at any moment. Clearly, the Crown Prince is His Majesty's son. But the breed is different. Song Heking gave a faint smile. He was born with exquisite and intense features, usually as cold and aloof as a snow lotus from the Tianshan Mountains. With this smile, it was as if an immortal had been touched by the mortal world. Wen Yu's eyes slightly brightened, almost dazzled by such beauty. His Highness the Crown Prince and His Majesty are not related by blood. Zhuoang Star practices abdication in favor of the worthy. All positions are held by the capable. His Highness the Crown Prince is the successor personally selected and nurtured by His Majesty. He actually wanted to remind Wenyu that His Majesty not only handles myriad affairs daily, but also has some harmless hidden ailments. Considering all aspects, His Highness the Crown Prince is the better choice as a guardian. But Song Hye-king has always been thoughtful. Even though Wenyu trusts him exceptionally, he did not want to act based on the circumstances. She has the right to make her own choices. Far away in the imperial study of the palace in the central region of the empire, the front hall is solemn and luxurious, empty and devoid of people. Behind layers of curtains and screens, there is actually a vast milky white bathing pool. Fragrant, delicate moon-white flowers float on the water's surface. The entire pool exudes an icy chill. With a splash of water, a person emerged from the water. Droplets slid down her flawless, jade-like skin. Glossy and smooth silver hair cascades down. A few strands cling to the collarbone and pectoral muscles. The figure, like an exquisite sculpture, is faintly visible, sensing someone intruding into his territory. The large fish tail in the pool is agile and powerful. With a scattered motion, he instantly stands firm on the white jade steps by the poolside. Draped in a snow-white robe, he pushes aside the mother-of-pearl bead curtain and walks toward the council hall. The robe is of exceptional quality, falling to the man's gleaming, slender ankles. Unless observed closely, outsiders would hardly notice that this recently enthroned emperor always walks with a slight tiptoe. The one coming to discuss important matters is Chu Jun Lu Wanbai, also an S's level beast. With a similar seniority, even when facing the empire's most noble emperor, Lu Wanbai only needs to bow to show respect. But today, he unexpectedly performed the full set. The ritual for meeting the monarch, kneeling on the ground. Yet his back remains straight and upright, adopting a stance of scattered silence, as if he will remain kneeling indefinitely. Rise. Have you read the secret letter sent by the guest minister? Yes, Your Majesty. Lu Wanbai insists on speaking while kneeling, regarding the matter of becoming the guardian or even partner of the female. I regret that I cannot comply, and I ask for Your Majesty's punishment. The only female in billions of years on Zhuang Star, Lu Wanbai is well aware of her importance, far beyond that of an S's level male like him. Born into a noble family and chosen as the imperial crown prince, Lu Wanbai was thoroughly familiar with interstellar empirical evidence. He also knew the kind of fanatical that females received on other longevity stars. This situation would only intensify on the blazing sun star. Tens of billions of eligible males vying for attention. A female wagging her tail and begging like a pet dog. With his pride, he absolutely could not endure multiple men serving one wife. Given the current circumstances, it was also absolutely impossible for him to monopolize the empire's only female. Since he couldn't get what he wanted, it was better to cut off the desire at its source. He didn't need a wife master. Just like all the aloof and untamed Wolf King ancestors, draped in silken immortal robes, he sat upon the soft shell throne. His long, pale, feathery eyelashes lifted, a gentle smile on his face. The very image of a wise ruler in a prosperous age. Wanbai, there's no need to worry about this. You were not selected. Lu Wanbai looked up in astonishment. His slender gray eyes showed a hint of disbelief. When the military department reported using his information, Song Hye-king had clearly rated him as the best candidate for guardian. Lu Wanbai was also confident that his resume was outstanding and unmatched. Therefore, after handling the government affairs in his hands, he came to the imperial palace to apologize. Who would have thought that the esteemed female hadn't chosen him? For the first time in his life, Lu Wanbai showed a hint of embarrassed self-importance on his face. But this suited his wishes perfectly. He stood up and gave Lin Luo a slight nod. Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty. He turned to leave, but Lin Luo called out to stop him. He gestured with his chin toward the small mountain of memorials piled on the desk. Since you're here, please take care of these trivial matters. I have important business to attend to. with no wars abroad, and no internal strife at home. Lu Wanbai couldn't figure out what His Majesty was so busy with. Puzzled, he asked, what urgent matter concerned His Majesty? I am willing to share your worries. Lin Luo had already stood up and was walking toward the door of the imperial study. Hearing this, he waved his hand. This is something you can't help with. I am going to learn how to serve my wife. Lu Wanbai stood frozen in place, a black line of sweat on his face. He sat down as instructed and began reviewing the memorials. Yet, a subtle, ascribable feeling rose in his heart. So that Sixing didn't choose him, but chose Ling Luo instead. Lu Wanbai didn't realize at the time that for a long period to come, he would be doing 2 jobs for 1 salary. Meanwhile, at the military base, the high-ranking military officials, after discussing various basic matters with Wenyu, saluted and withdrew one by one. Song Heking and Nate remained behind and saluted Wenyu with extreme formality. Both knelt on one knee and solemnly swore in a posture of submission that they would unconditionally cherish, respect, and remain loyal to him. The beast god is a local deity. Perhaps to ensure the validity of the oath, they still used a foreign language. But with the translation from the optical brain system, you could not only understand, but also felt the oath was extremely Chunabu. However, the visuals are pleasing to the eye. He was focused on appreciating and couldn't be bothered to complain. All right. The ceremony is Kinking and General Nate get up quickly, no matter how handsome or beautiful their appearances, with 2 extremely charismatic, handsome men kneeling before her. When you still felt immense pressure, she couldn't help but urge softly. However, the 2 who had just made their devout vows lingered on the ground, unwilling to move. Lifting their eyes, they gazed at her intently. Wenyu was a bit confused. He wouldn't, like an emperor, say something like, "My beloved subjects, you may rise," would he? Noticing her confusion, Song Hiking's cheeks flushed with a hint of color. He whispered a plea, "Could you please help us up?" This is the final step of the guardianship ceremony, representing the recognition and acceptance of the female. If the female refuses physical contact, the guardian loses the qualification to become an official partner. Song Heking also only found out today that the people of the god of longevity have such a tradition. Even though he temporarily dares not harbor improper thoughts towards Wenyu, he still wants to desperately seek an opportunity. Wenyu saw him acting shy and hesitant, stammering, and thought it was something serious. But it turned out to be just this. Thinking again. This little crane hasn't even seen the opposite sex before. Reactions like blushing from holding hands are completely understandable. He reached out his hand. The 2 of them stood up by holding onto his palm. Apart from the sensation of skin contact, there wasn't a hint of the strength that a servant should have. But at the same time, the deep bronze and the cool white, one dark and one light. 2 colors resting in the palm, the prominent crystalline strength, and the exquisite, fair, delicate part intersecting. You swallowed, suddenly feeling a sense of competition. With Song Hiking's skin tone and looks, isn't he definitely heaven's chosen? Omega holy body. While General Nate has broad shoulders, long legs, upright and righteous. Under his military uniform, his physique is burly with tight muscles. Every inch of his body is filled with a perfectly balanced sense of strength, beautiful without being overly exaggerated. His suspicious gaze wandered between the 2. As he watched, his thoughts drifted off track. Could this be a beast world of 0 and 1? The scorching sun star has indeed never seen such a phenomenon. Song Heking also didn't understand the deep meaning in Wenyu's eyes. It's getting late. How about we take Wenyu to dinner? As military personnel, Song Heking and Nate never seek special treatment. Therefore, they currently don't have the means to prepare separate meals for Wenyu. More importantly, they also can't hide Wenyu and keep him from meeting people. Taking him to the base cafeteria for a meal is perfectly normal. On the way, Song Hye asked about Wen Yu's taste preferences. Upon learning that she has no dietary restrictions, his hanging heart relaxed slightly. The base cafeteria isn't very large, because most soldiers are accustomed to drinking nutrient solutions. Compared to filling staple foods, they can provide more energy. Most males serving in the Empire's military are passionate beasts. Carnivores find it difficult to abandon their nature. Therefore, the cafeteria provides both cooked food and raw meat. So, as soon as Wen Yu entered the cafeteria, she witnessed several leopards crouching on the seats, gnawing on bright red raw steaks. Nate immediately stepped forward to block her line of sight, exchanged a glance with Song Hye, and led her toward the comfort zone. The First Legion has always been known for its strict discipline. At this moment, many soldiers in the cafeteria noticed Wen Yu, feeling very excited, yet they consciously maintained silence, only standing up to salute when Wen Yu and the two passed by. Several leopards who came to the cafeteria to satisfy their cravings looked at each other, each seeing two big words in the other's eyes: "We're done." They were actually caught by Her Excellency. Wen Yu, such a primitive, blood-drinking side, damages the image of the First Legion. A small matter is affecting Her Excellency Wen Yu's appetite for the meal. A big matter is, the information issued by the commander shows female ORCs have no beastly nature. Naturally, they do not eat raw meat. They even greatly despise such barbaric behavior. For a moment, the high-quality steak on the plate no longer smelled appealing. Several working leopards tucked their tails. With mournful faces, they drafted apologies in their minds, deciding to go and offer a humble apology to Her Excellency Wen Yu later. "Why aren't you eating anymore?" A puzzled voice sounded directly in front. The leopards looked up and met again with an interested, smiling face. "Wen, you hadn't paid much attention at first. Leopards eating raw meat is perfectly normal. Just like watching Animal World live." She could completely understand. Moreover, the steak they were eating was pre-cut. The scene could hardly be called bloody. But the gazes of these leopards were too intense. Wen Yu looked back. Their expressions looked as if they were about to cry. Female Her Excellency Wen Yu. Her Excellency Wen Yu not only smiled at them, but also cared about their dining issues. The leopards were stunned for a moment, then agilely jumped down from the dining table and lined up neatly, prostrating themselves before Wen Yu, speaking with a heavy accent, disturbing Her Excellency Wen Yu's meal. "We have caused chaos in the cafeteria. Our crime is unforgivable." Wen Yu stared wide-eyed, a face with a look of utter bewilderment. Song Hye awkwardly touched the tip of his nose. The voice sounds a bit muffled. "Sorry. The learning function of the translation system is not yet mature enough. Just like all the internet on Earth, all optical brains are also linked together through the main brain. After Wen Yu's optical brainwaves granted access rights, will automatically collect and organize his language data, transfer to the new network again. In other words, if one day the scorching sun Beastman network culture ever becomes rampant, it has an inseparable connect with Wen Yu. After all, he noshes online day by day. What kind of crappy meme philodramas have you been watching? Go crazy if you're going to be crazy. Anyway, no one is looking after him here." Wen Yu gave a light, demonstrative cough. "You should eat when it's time to eat and drink when it's time to drink. Don't mind me. Full and satisfied. Only then do we have the strength to resist foreign enemies." The leopards were greatly shocked. They widened their eyes in unison. "Wen Yu, Your Excellency, actually so approachable. You should know that there hasn't been a female on the Wang star for hundreds of millions of years. Now, finally see the true face. Most males. In my heart, I have our enshrined Wen Yu as a deity. Subconscious determination. That is a figure even more unattainable than His Majesty the Emperor. Your Majesty is gone, but the Chu army remains. The can still select and cultivate again. There is only one female. If it weren't for the beast god's divine intervention, this lovely, pitiable and respectable female. How could it descend upon them? If it weren't for the beast god's divine intervention in Zhuoang Star, how could this female speak so beautifully? Concise language. And now, their faith has grown even stronger. If it weren't for the beast god's divine intervention, most noble and esteemed Lord Wenyu, how could they care something for ordinary soldiers? Wenyu doesn't know theorics like to imagine things. Seeing a few leopards almost brought tears to my eyes. She said she felt utterly baffled. A man does not easily shed tears. Crying and wailing, what kind of behavior is that? Hurry up and eat your meal, then go train. Upon hearing this, several leopards sniffed the air. As you command, Lord Wenyu. Being the base one. Deputy Chief General Nate and Song Heking thoroughly ignored. However, their focus is not on this matter. But my heart and eyes are completely focused on Wenyu. In the customs of other birthday celebrants, the male is to serve the wife master during meals. They, as guardians, even as a novice on the road, this point isn't willing to settle for being second to others. Especially Nate. He knows it very well. The position of myself as this temporary guardian. It's thanks to Song Heking's influence. The little female was at most polite and distant towards him. Yuzi just saw that he liked drinking camel milk. I'll go get you another cup. Song Heking found a secluded spot, arranged for the girl to sit down. Nate then swiftly brought back a stack of plates. I took a small portion of almost the cooked food from the window. The table was quickly filled to the brim. Wenyu suspects that the three of them can't finish this much. But I dare not recklessly speculate about the appetite of the ORCs. Just about to pick up the knife and fork to start eating. But was preempted by Nate. He held the knife and fork with both hands, trying hard to recall the nuke knowledge crammed this afternoon. Move a few appetizer dishes in front of Wenyu. Attitude is extremely docile. Wenyu, Your Excellency. Which dish would you like to try first? Wenyu is flattered and overwhelmed. This imposing and formidable general. Looks like we have to feed her. She still thought that an all-male associate would be more normal. It seems she was overthinking it. The mating behavior of ORCs has long been engraved in their DNA. Wenyu doesn't mind being surrounded by handsome men. But feeding in public, she is not a 3-year-old child. So embarrassing. Yo-yo sister. Wenyu holding the beast milk and taking small sips. Not far away. A little lion cub with glossy fur came dashing over. Like a small cannonball, he crashed headlong into her arms. The little lion cub raised its head from his embrace, instantly transformed into a pink-carved, jade-polished white dumpling. The soft, rosy cheek flesh rubbed against Wenyu's hand. Round amber eyes blinked again and again. Nizu, have you finished your homework? Wenyu is extremely surprised. Pick up, Nizu. He gave 2 kisses on his cheek. Take the opportunity to place him in the seat next to Nate. I'm hungry. Those who didn't come are just right. Let daddy feed you. Eat more to grow your body. According to Nizu's yearly intelligence level, no need for adults to feed them. But Wenyu is an adult. She doesn't even need. So for now, let's put up with a little hardship. My dear. First, let's preserve his face. Nizu is a bit embarrassed. He actually isn't going to do his homework, but busy researching Theatiker's upgraded language system. Want to quickly master everyday expressions. Only this way can we communicate with him. Who knew that just as I threw myself into Sister Pomelo's arms, the next second, he was benched. He glared at his father with dissatisfaction. I took a set of knife and fork, removed the bones from the chicken thighs and sliced them. Wenyu also took a set-off knife and fork himself. While Nate was stunned, it started on its own. Nate is indeed in a daze, but the reason for being stunned is just now when you get him to feed Nizu. This kid obviously doesn't need it. However, males basically don't disobey the wife's commands. Guardian, then even less likely to refuse their request of their own little female. So does he want to feed or not? Before Nate could sort out his thoughts, when You had 2 pairs of chopsticks handed to him, one from the left and one from the right. On one side is tender and juicy chicken thigh meat. On one side a crystal clear, plump shrimp. When you look at Nizu with the eager anticipation in her eyes, look again at the gentle, smiling Song Hye-king. Finally, with one bite on the left, one bite on the right, enjoying the life of a useless person being fed by others. I realized I was just putting on airs a moment ago. Why is the hand Samagi's head like that? Can't hold back. Simply can't hold back. Song Hye-king and Nizu perfectly occupied the positions in both sides of Wenyu. Tall and imposing General Nate stood to the side at this moment. Like an outsider, he really is still not as likable as Song Hye-king. When you refused, he did not hesitate. Accept Song Hye-king's advances with composure. Nate's heart instantly sank to the bottom. Even Nizu is more favored than him. Till the bowl piled up into a small mountain. When you puffed up his cheeks to stop it. Enough, dear Jouk Soksui. You all eat too. General Nate, is today's meal not to your taste? He sees Nate standing by the table like a statue. Suspect he doesn't like cooked food. Yes. Get up and go to the window to get them a portion of raw sliced tenderloin. The appetite of the orcs is truly extraordinary. This piece of beef tenderloin weighs a full 10 pounds. When you pushed the meal tray over, Nate's sharply defined, coldly rigid face flashed with astuteness. When you, your excellency, is for me? When you's meaning cowled be more obvious. But Nate couldn't believe it. The whole person feels like being hit on the head by a pie. Dizzy. The gazes of the other soldier Sarand were filled with envy. General Nate is really lucky. To think it could be taken from the hands of the commander himself. Divided into the favor of the female. Thinking of the scene where the little Famalu is hugging Nizu